Good morning. Welcome. You're on High Frequency Radio. I'm your host, Yusef, along with my co-host, Paul David Savage. Good morning, brother. How you doing?
That's my brother. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, glad to have you back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Had an interesting day yesterday. That's I'll share with everyone out there. How'd you handle it yesterday, man? You hold it down yesterday, man.
You got to get it. My opinion is going to be biased.
I got a couple of emails that say, your man held it down yesterday. I started getting the feeling like, I needed to be replaced or something, I'm like, dang,
we too early in the game for that. Not teeth.
They don't know you're going to be doing your own show right here pretty soon.
Pushing. You're pushing me, y'all. You're pushing me away.
I'm pushing. No, I'm not pushing you away. I'm pushing you forward.
Yeah, he doing some pushing. Let's put it like that. He doing some pushing.
We got an interesting show today. The name of the show today.
Before you get to the show today, let's hear about yesterday.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you. Well, yesterday, what happened was this. I coach individuals and assist individuals in handling situations. As a matter of fact, I just got a call a few minutes ago from a young lady. She's having a situation in court with some issues, and what I do is I help people, with when they go into court. The primary thing I guess I do is help people get over fear, because I can tell people all these things. I can say, hey, look, this is what's going on, this is what's happening. You need to do it like this, you need to do it like that. But if that individual has not gotten a hold of their fear, if they haven't been able to, have the courage to ask a question, have the courage to assert themselves, maybe even in a belligerent fashion, maybe even to the point where they may get a contempt of court, because sometimes that is necessary, and I help people see through that. It's like I try to tell them sometimes, I remember when I was first doing this, sometimes I would say something to the judge and they would duck my head because I just knew, a police officer or a sheriff was going to come over and beat the shit out of me, I mean, you can't talk to the judge like that. But that never happened. It was some matter of fact, I would be shocked because something else would happen, they would have a look of surprise on their face, and it's all spurred from the point. I had this thought when I first got into this. I said, what gives these people the right, to have all this authority over us like this? I mean, didn't they come out of, between a woman's legs just like I did, how there's people, it just seemed like, you walk in there and just this automatic authority. Oh, that's the judge. then we turn around and say they public servants. So, that's a conflict in my mind. I'm not understanding that. So then they come up with all these little rituals that you do when you go into the court. All rise. Honorable Judge so-and-so. I don't ever stand up for a judge because he's a public. Why would I stand up for a public servant? It's just one of those questions. Another question, like when you go to when you go to trial, you know, they put your hand on the Bible and, you know, tell you to swear in. Well, why you can't open up the Bible and, you know, use what's in the Bible? That is the common law. You know, and that right there, that question is going to kind of center around our topic for today, the New World Order, and who are they? You know, because everybody would say, well, they doing this and they can do that, and, you know, we can't stop them from doing this, and you know what they gonna do. You know who they are. Boy, don't mess with them people. And I'm like, well, who are they? You know, I was on the a radio show two nights ago. I heard you mention it. I was on there with Phil Valentine, and I'm going to be on another show next month with Dr. Umar Johnson and some of the people from Hidden Colors, I guess. That should be very good. It's going to be a panel discussion, the Zoe Williams show. And but when I was on here with Dr. Phil Valentine, you know, and I like Phil, you know, he's a wise man and very intelligent, and I like him because I can feel him because of the energy he put into, you know, his studies and in his quest for obtaining knowledge. And he made a statement about going over into the private side, you know, and the character assessment that one goes through, in which if anyone has listened to this show, I'm always talking about. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, too, because, you know, a lot of people are saying, well, they're making us do this, or they're taking this, and they're doing this. And one thing that I have learned about this entire system that we are so-called going up against, and I want everybody out there to remember this. I should make this rule number 5, and I think I will make this rule number 5, is that everything in their system is voluntary. It's 100% voluntary. They need your voluntary consent in everything that they do. So when I went in this courtroom yesterday with this gentleman, he is actively in the process of asserting his rights. You know, he got an opportunity to start to see through the illusions, you know. What happens when a judge, well, I'm ordering you to do so-and-so. Well, you know, hey, well, I don't agree to do that. And you'll see that the judge will have to try to recontract with you in some kind of way. Well, you know, I say, well, ma'am, isn't this civil? Well, we just appear to have a disagreement on the law. This is what she said. Okay, well, you know, could you show me the law, explain the law to me? And you start putting these people in a corner and start asking our public servants questions, they start backpedaling. Because what it really is they're really not your public servants. They're actually serving foreign interests, because everyone in the United States is deemed a slave. And they tell you every day publicly on television when they tell you about the national debt. They say, oh, we're $16 trillion in debt. And then in the Bible it tells you that when you are in debt, you are a slave. This is how they're bringing in the New World Order. They're not bringing in a New World Order by force. They're bringing the New World Order in by voluntary consent, your compliance, your acquiescence, your apathy, your lust and need to seek pleasure and neglect your own spiritual development. That's how they bring it in a New World Order. I'm going to post this debt clock. I always, you know, a couple of things, you know, I do, Paul, you know, I mean, you know, I go into seminars sometimes, and I always post this, this information of how showing that if you are under a municipality, you are a slave. You know, I always show that, especially when I'm in a seminar.
Mm-hmm.
It's this always gets under my skin. I'll be in a seminar. I'll say, I'll say, okay, well, here is a case law, because I was in the law library and I found this case. And I'm saying, here's a case law that says that if you are under a municipality, that you are a slave. And then I look out at my audience and I hear crickets and everything. Like, they don't know what the hell I just said, you know what I'm saying? They just look at me with this blank stare. I'm like, didn't y'all just hear what I said? I said, if you're living under, let me read this to y'all again. Because let's see if I get a cricket response again. And I'm gonna give you the case where y'all go look this up. And let me read this to y'all. It says, by the general laws of nations, no nation is bound to recognize the state of slavery as to foreign slaves within its territorial dominions when it is opposed to its own policy and institutions in favor of the subjects of other nations where slavery is recognized. In other words, if you were a slave over in Russia and you came to the United States is under no obligation to recognize your status as a slave in that foreign country. Then it goes on to say, it says, if it does, it is a matter of comity and not a matter of international right. In other words, we may want to maintain diplomatic relations with that particular country, so as a courtesy, we're going to keep your ass a slave if you come over here in the United States. But look what it says next. It says, the state of slavery is deemed to be a mere municipal regulation founded upon and limited to the range of the territorial laws. Now, this is Priggs versus Pennsylvania, 16 PET 539, 10 capital LED 1060. Now, you can get on the internet and Google Priggs versus Pennsylvania, and you will see that this is an old case. But the thing about it is, when you study history, when you study the old cases, they give you some insight into what's going on today. I mean, they tell you right there that if you are under a municipal regulation, you are a slave. Do I hear the crickets going off in the audience? Or did that, sink in? I do get the cricket response every time, They look at me and they're like, okay, what does that mean? When you go down to your courthouse and you see municipal courthouse, think back about what I just read you. You are living under municipal regulations. When you live under statutes, codes, rules, and regulations, you are a slave, okay? They tell you this. When you study Roman civil law, statutes were for slaves. In the Bible, it tells you that if you are in debt, you are a slave. Well, anyway, a couple of us, when we wake up, we like, shit, I'm not no damn slave. I know when I first heard it, I was like, shit, I'm not no man's slave. I'm going to do a Nat Turner. You know what I'm saying? I go up in the courthouse, and then it's the thing about it, when you start waking up, they see you awake. It's like that movie, They Live. We got one that can see. You remember the old lady in the store? Dude had to get the glasses and everything to see what was really going on. And when he got put on the glasses, he was dumb as hell. He don't even know how to maintain, stay incognito. He started telling them, how ugly they are and everything. But it's like that when you put on your glasses, and some of us do that. I was kind of guilty of that because somebody said, can I post a case? Yeah, let me post it for you real quick. It's Priggs versus Pennsylvania. But a lot of us, you know, we start to see, you know, we lose our mind. We lose our mind, you know, and start going in there. You know, I know I did. I lost my mind. I was going in there, you know, I'm ready to cuss the judge out, you know, because, you know, I'm like, man, who are you, man? You know, I told you know, I'm telling the judge, you know, I'm talking to him crazy while he's up on the bench and all this type of stuff. And then, you know, I had to get to the point where, you know, I had to learn how to, you know, have some self-control about myself, you know. Because I had to realize that the only guilty, what was really the cause of my suffering was my own ignorance. It was my own ignorance that was the cause of my suffering, so I really couldn't blame anyone, you know. Hold on, let me finish posting this case so he can have it. 10LD, 10LED. Okay, there go the case right there. I just put it up in the chat room. That's Priggs versus Pennsylvania. And for all of you who just chimed in, I'm seeing everybody out there in the chat room. I see the Nefertiti. I see you. I don't know how to say this. Omar Cam A, Ra Sudan, what's going on? Gabe Pace 1. And all the others out there in the chat room. Thank you for joining me today. But that particular case I just posted, Priggs versus Pennsylvania, what it tells you there is that, let me read it for you again, for all of y'all who just when it came in. It says, by the general laws of nations, no nation is bound to recognize the state of slavery as to foreign slaves within its territorial dominions when it is opposed to its own policy and institutions, in favor of the subjects of other nations when slavery is recognized. If it does it, it is a matter of comity. You should look that word comity up, and not a matter of international right. And this is the killer. It says the state of slavery is deemed. Let me tell y'all something out there. When you see that word deemed in any legal document, your ass better, all the antennas on your head better shoot up, because that is a dangerous word. Even though it may look innocent. That is a dangerous, you need to get that Black's Law Dictionary and look up everything under that word. That is a legal fiction. And the definition of a legal fiction is an assumption that something is true, even though it is untrue, made especially in judicial reasoning to alter how legal rule operates. In other words, we can know what the truth is, but we can pretend like it's some other shit. It says the state of slavery is deemed to be a mere municipal regulation founded upon and limited to the range of the territorial laws. In other words, if you are living under a municipal regulation, you are deemed a slave. What is it you don't understand? What is it y'all don't understand about that? That's some clear shit. I hear the crickets. But let's, I was going to talk today about a couple of things. You know, we were just, like I said, I was just in court yesterday with a friend of mine. He has a case, and, you know, they doing the, you know, and he's seeing through the illusion, because it's a powerful illusion. You know, the illusion is authority. You know, these people, they have this illusion over you like they have all of the power, and you have absolutely no power. You got to do exactly what they tell you to do. You have no power over these particular people. And what happens is this: y'all can't see. Well, the first thing most people don't understand is contract law, because they think a contract, the only kind of contract, is an express contract that is bilateral between two individuals who are competent, and there's some sort of meeting of mind with some kind of consideration. But there are a lot of different contracts. There are bilateral contracts. There are unilateral contracts. There are verbal contracts. There are implied contracts. You can be in a contract by your conduct.
Those are all colorful contracts, though.
Well, they may not. Well, it depends on how well you can enforce them. True enough, you know. But when you're in a courtroom, it gets a little deeper, because when you are in the courtroom and you got the court reporter over there typing something up, that is an express contract, because everything that's being spoken in the courtroom is being recorded. So when a judge tell you, we're going to trial in 1 month, and you don't, respond to that, then you agree, because what the judge is really doing is making an offer to you. What they're really saying is it okay if we go to trial next month? But they're just saying it in a real aggressive, gruff voice. But you won't know that if you don't say, well, Your Honor, I'm not disputing anything. It is my understanding that trial is for a dispute over facts, and I'm not disputing any facts in this matter, so we don't have no need to have any type of fact-finding. I've accepted these charges for value and consideration in exchange for full set-off of the public charges against the defendant. That is what's called a confession and avoidance. That is a plea. Why don't y'all look that up? It's called confession and avoidance. Now, confession and avoidance is a common law plea. And we don't have any common law courts. We have commercial courts. So in a commercial venue, you have what's called an acceptance for value. You are confessing by accepting the charges, but you are avoiding the consequences, because this is a debt collection. There is no money to pay any debts with, because the Constitution clearly states that the only thing that can be used for the payment of a debt is gold and silver. The gold rescission was unlawfully and illegally rescinded by Roosevelt in 1933 under House Joint Resolution 192, June 5, 1933, Public Law 73-10, and all associated policies, codified now in Title 31-5118D2. So I'm accepting your charges, man, but I'm returning it to you because you're trying to access my Social Security trust account and get some money. I know what you're trying to do, and I know that you need it because there's no money on the public side. All the money's coming from the private side. You are my public servant, and you have a duty as a trustee of this constructive trust, and I, as a beneficiary, you have a duty to protect me because I'm a real living soul, and you took an oath under the Constitution of the United States of America to protect my God-given rights. You got to throw this in these people's face. See, you can't tell the people what their job is. You got to motherfucking remind them what their job is. Because these people are forgot. They forgot what their job is. And their job is to serve you and protect you. I was looking at Transformer movie #1. And, they have little things in there that people might slip by them and everything when you're watching the movie. And one of the Decepticons, he was a police car, and on the side of his car, he didn't have protect and serve. He had to enslave and slay. I'm like, these little subliminal messages they be sending, we don't be catching, But real interesting. Yesterday my man, he stood strong in court. He stood on his square. He went back and forth with this particular judge. They've been trying to set him a trial date. Here's the thing, y'all. You don't go to trial if you're not arguing. You only go to trial if you argue. They cannot take you to trial if you're not arguing. You have to look up and find out what a jury trial is for, or a bench trial for that matter. Jury trials and bench trials are they're fact-finding procedures. A jury trial, a jury's only duty is to rule on the facts. A judge's job is to rule on the law. If there are no facts in dispute, then the judge has to rule on the law, and the judge always has to give you a remedy. He always has to give you a remedy. And your remedy your remedy is set off. Even on these mortgage cases, y'all, all you people out there fighting for your houses and so forth, you need to be researching set off. Stop all this filing motions, and then y'all file these motions, don't even put an affidavit with it, and get it kicked out, pay the state a claim upon which relief can be granted. You're getting all this stuff kicked back to you. Having phone meetings and everything. Don't go into these people venues. Stay in your own lane. They fictions of law. They can't sign no affidavits. Go in with some don't do what they do. Fill out an affidavit. I had a client, not a client, I had a friend of mine contacted me this morning. Got a little situation with Child Protective Services. They may be listening, so I'm going to give them some advice over there. You know, they had one of those situations where they took the child in to have the child examined. Next thing you know, here comes a state kidnapping. Tell them, oh, you didn't beat the child and all this, and, and come in and take the child. And I don't know if y'all know this, but in California, Dr. Shirley Moore had thousands of those Child Protective Service cases turned over because it was revealed that the doctors they were using were coming into court using the same X-ray every time and taking all these people kids. Now, I tell people all the time, y'all may want to start, asking a few questions. I've told people many times to check out the Judge's Slush Fund. Very, very good. Dr. Shirley Moore did some very, very good research. Because what she found out here in California, that all the courts are operating privately. It's called Judge's Slush Fund. Now, you'd have to watch this very closely because you need to, understand how they're using these EIN numbers to hide the fact that they are diverting money on these Child Protective Service cases into a slush fund, and these judges are going out buying jewelry for their girlfriend, hitting a strip club, doing all type of stuff. I put it up there in the chat room. And you need to check that out because you need to go and investigate so you can see what type of court you're in. You are not in a court of law, y'all. But you won't know this unless you ask some questions. And to ask questions, you got to have some nerve. So my job is to give you enough information, to give you enough knowledge so you can kick in the door with the fofo. A la Biggie Smalls. Some of y'all might not. Paul, I know you don't even know what I'm talking about, do you? I don't even listen to no rap music.
I know who Biggie is. There's a few
okay, all right,
Yeah, I know who Biggie, and not just because he got shot.
But man, you got to get past the illusion. It is an illusion. And I was in federal court one time, and I had a judge, she was hollering at me, Mr. Jones, this is my courtroom, and we have in my courtroom that when I'm talking, that lady over there, she's not going to be typing, and I'm going to, she just screaming at me, I didn't know why she was screaming at me because I just sat down. I ain't said nothing. But, they had the word on me, I ain't said nothing yet, man. I just came in and said hi, and she went off on me, So I just asked her a simple question. I said, am I to understand the honorable judge has made a judicial determination and I'm not to be afforded my due process rights of freedom of speech in these proceedings? For the record. Hear a pin drop. Crickets. You just ask them a question. You just hit them with a question, y'all. You ain't got to argue with them. You always play the dumb role. Well, damn, I don't understand what you're talking about. Why you hollering at me like this? Well, perhaps, if you are in a bad mood, you may want to either recuse yourself or maybe you should continue these proceedings until you can come back with a state of mind that may be more amenable to conducting these proceedings with fairness and impartiality. Because right now it seems like you're impartial toward me. Or some shit like that, you can say something like that, but they always screaming at you trying to make, I was in court one time, it was an unlawful detainer, I came in, judge know me, I'm in Gwinnett County. Come in, and the judge, it's a foreclosure case, and the judge, he see me, I'm suited up, I got my suit on, 'cause I come suited and booted when I come into the courtroom. And he know who I am, and he said, and then he say this to everybody. He say, it is a shame that public servants have to tell private citizens what to do. And, of course, I heard crickets in the audience because nobody knew what the hell he was talking about. They be putting stuff in your face. Right in your face. But let's talk about this New World Order thing, because this was very interesting. We always hearing about the New World Order, and I remember back when all this New World Order discussion first jumped off. That they would. Do you remember, Paul, when they first started talking about the New World Order?
I bet I can remember it farther back than you can. For me, I remember it back in the 70s. When I got out of high school, they was talking about. Yeah,
they were talking about cashless society,
Well, that's going back to Hoover.
Yeah.
That's one of Hoover's master plans.
Yeah, and but it's amazing because we've lived and actually seen the cashless society jump off. Everybody got ATM cards. With Visa, y'all don't know that Visa is not a word. Visa are numbers. When you look at a Visa card, the word Visa, that's not a word. Those are numbers. That VI is a Roman numeral 6. That S is a Greek 6, and that A is a Babylonian 6. Go check that out. Well, Roman numeral 6, how you make a 6 in Greek? It's called abjad. I have to show y'all that one day. But they gave everybody these cards, and now you don't need cash anymore. Matter of fact, it's kind of inconvenient to have cash. They got you using debt, currency, and credit. And then once again, I'm going to tell you why they're going to bring in the New World Order one time. I'm putting it in the chat room right here. Real easy, real simple. All you have to do is go to this website, and there's the New World Order. That is why your ass is going to be in the New World Order.
The dead clock.
Well, look at it. I'm telling you, man, they go look at it and they just, and they see all them numbers flashing and they just, it ain't sinking in. That's you. That shit, because a lot of people out there, that's what, about us and everything. They think, that's not, I tell them about the Bible. I say the Old Testament. I say, well, I'm a Moor, or I'm a Muslim, or, some shit like that. Okay, I ain't talking about what you believe in. I'm talking about what they believe in. They are Jews, and they have the Torah. It goes back to the Jewish Shitar. Y'all should research that, Jewish Shitar. They believe in the Torah. All these statutes, codes, rules, and regulations are coming from the Torah. They're coming out of the Torah. So in that book, it tells you, all through the Bible, as a matter of fact, in the Old Testament, that when you are in debt, you are a slave. So when they come on TV and tell you that we need to balance the budget, we $16 trillion in debt. They even put it on the damn internet so you can see it. It's just flowing. I want y'all to see right over there at the top of that clock where it says debt limit breach. Google that and see what they've been talking about, because they don't put that on the primetime news, but they've been talking about it. They $54 billion over their limit. Now, where is this coming from? I'll tell you where it's coming from. It's coming from you. It's coming from your refusal to understand and recognize that you are the creditor and that you need to use your commercial energy to offset debt. I told y'all this cat, Vernon, what's his name? He's the head of the American Securitization Forum. He wrote a paper I told y'all last time. His name is Vernon H.C. Wright. Now, what I do is, I'm the type of person, when I find dudes I ain't never seen before, I ain't never heard of, and then I find out how powerful these cats are, because this dude taking pictures with everybody got power, but I never heard of him before. Found out that he's one of the people responsible for, a lot of this securitization. And I don't know if y'all understand it or not, but securitization is how they're putting everybody in slavery. Everything is for sale. Securitization is really like, okay, I'm going to give you a loan and I'm going to sell it to a foreign interest. It's like, you being sold to people overseas. It's like treason. It really is a form of treason. It's your public service not giving a damn about you. Just because they want to drive a Ferrari, they give less who the fuck owns you. All they want to do is make some money. So they'll sell anything and anybody to anyone. You got to get up on this stuff, man. I put the link in the chat room. But anyway, back to this Child Protective Services thing. They done took this couple's child, saying that they've been abusing them and so forth, and no proof whatsoever, just an allegation. So I told them, I said, look, write the hospital and tell them to provide you with an affidavit signed by the doctor that did the examination under penalty of perjury, that their findings were correct. Because one thing you're going to see about public servants, they don't like to sign affidavits. They don't like to, they make allegations all the time. They'll tell you something, but you never question it. And that's what you got to get out of people that just say some shit to you, Well, the law says that you got to do this. Well, okay, can I see that law that you're talking about? Well, the law requires us to do this. Oh, what, can I see that law? Well, you're going to have to do this. Okay, well, what rule or law, regulation, statute, code says that I have to? There's a lot of rules, codes, statutes, and rules, regulations that say what you have to do, because that's what they're for. Public servants are slaves. They don't like it when you say that to them. Go in the courtroom and try this, y'all. Go in the courtroom and ask a judge, are you a public servant? And watch her call the damn sheriff on your ass. Hey, we don't like, what? I just asked you a question. Ask the judge if they're a public servant. See what happened. See what happened. See what these people think. Get into their mind, their psychology, and see what they think about you and about the relationship that they have with you. It's not what you think. You sit here vote these people, they putting signs in your yard. Vote for so-and-so and so-and-so for judge. And you go and do it, and they get in office and turn around and stab you in the back. Put your son in jail for life. Take you and kick you and your family out on the street. And you put them there. You have to ask these people questions. Even if the investigators in this Child Protective Services case find out, okay, sir, can I get all your business cards? Do you have an oath of office and a bond? I need everybody's name associated with this case. Everybody who puts their name on a piece of paper is going to be liable if I don't see my child. Because if you don't have a sworn affidavit signed under penalty of perjury, then you kidnapping my child. But what they're going to do is they're going to get you to come down to their office and do some type of polygraph or fill out you do something to testify against yourself. Because anything you say can and will be used against you. And most of y'all out there got a point to prove. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I'll talk to the police because I'm innocent, and go down there and then they hem y'all ass up. There's a video on YouTube called Don't Talk to the Police. Very, very, you know what? This should be required for everybody who has children, or a son in particular. You should take your son, sit him down, and make him watch this video. That's what my grandma used to do to me. She used to always just things that I was supposed to know, especially with black history and things like that. She made sure I always had some basic fundamental knowledge about things. So they got this video on the internet, and it's real interesting. It's a two-part video. It's called Don't Talk to the Police. I'm sitting here right now putting a link in the chat room right now. Y'all can go to YouTube and watch it. When you watch it on your own time, watch it. You have nothing to gain by talking to the police. Nothing. It tells you in the Miranda you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. God damn, you want to hear that? You know what I'm saying? If you talk to them, I'm going to use the shit against you. They're telling you right there. I'm going to use it against you if you say anything to me. What the hell you don't hear? It don't say might. You have nothing to say. The burden of proof is on he who asserts, not he who denies. So in that child protective case, they alleging something. Well, that's on them to prove that. I just brought my child in to have them examined. And your child are not kids. Kids are goats. Stop calling your children kids.
Say that again. Say that again.
Stop calling your children kids. A kid is a damn goat, a baby goat. Real interesting. This is the type of stuff we got to get over, because they're going to bring this New World Order in, and it's going to be through our... Okay, somebody said that isn't right. Oh, it is right. Okay, that's right. Okay. I might have been wrong, You have to look. If I'm wrong now, check me in the chat. That's what the chat room is for now. I can't be all over the internet. Y'all supposed to be doing research while I'm, I'm on the internet here, while I'm talking. Man, you know what, man? They must got some type of... Man, what area code is 302, man?
That's down here with me. That's Delaware.
Oh, wait, boy. I got a lot of people listening to me in Delaware. But, Delaware be going down in Delaware. Y'all got some stuff happening out there in Delaware.
Yeah, but it's a large conscious community, too.
Yeah, I know. I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? But I got on. That's what's so good about the internet, because it's like, when Delaware, it's conscious out there. Yeah. I'm like, well, I got to give y'all props out there. I got to give y'all props out there. Y'all in Delaware, let me give a standing ovation to Delaware. Give it to you. Y'all out there kicking ass and taking names. Giving it up to you. Start thinking like that, y'all. Anytime that you are engaged with the public, it is always administrative, and there's always some process that has to be followed. It's called an administrative process. All right? It's always a debt collection. Everything is under the UCC. I don't know if y'all know this or not, but the Uniform Commercial Code has been codified in all 50 states. It's been codified all over the world. It's the same. Like UCC 1308 in Georgia, it's 11-1-308. Here in California, it's 1308. But it's the same in all 50 states. It just might look a little different, but the numbers are always going to be 1, 3, 0, and 8 all over the world. That is your New World Order right there. That is why when you visit another country, you should stop and pay your consulate a visit and ask them how you need to bond yourself while you are in that particular country. That's what a passport is all about. Notice that when you get a passport, you got to send these people your original birth certificate. Your birth certificate is a bond. What they're doing is they bonding you when you go to another country. You have to have a bond in place, and if you don't, they're going to kick your ass out of the country. You have to be bonded against all public charges. That is why when you file a UCC-1 and your security agreement that goes with it, along with that you're making an agreement, a contractual agreement with your straw man, and you're sending in a birth certificate bond to the Treasury Department. That's why you have to send your birth certificate to get a passport. They're putting a bond on you. They doing what you doing. They bonding you. And you do the same thing when you file your UCC-1. You got to send your birth certificate to the Treasury Department. You have to have a bond in place because everything in the world is operating off of commerce. Everything in the world. Look up the word consulate. Somebody say my passport has expired. Well, go get another one. Put all of it in a trust. Everybody says, well, you don't need a driver's license, you don't need this, you don't need that. I mean, there's a lot of truth to all that. Those are invisible contracts, but they only really affect people who do not know how to arrange their commercial affairs and give notices to the government. Because all that's really happening is you're looked at as a ward of the state due to the fact that you are an incompetent because you do not know how to handle your commercial affairs. And when you go into these courtrooms, these commercial courts, what they are attempting to determine is whether or not you are competent. That's also why they will give you a competency exam sometimes. Sometimes I think they give it to you because they want to know if you're going to do a Timothy McVeigh on somebody or something. But that you don't woke up and found out the truth and some of these patriot people out there, y'all know how y'all are. Y'all done found out, we're not operating under the Constitution. Obama them got scared because he got reelected. And everybody went out and bought guns. Man. Hell, I would have signed a gun bill too. Shit.
You see, I put it in the chat room, y'all. They talking some wild stuff about disclaiming, this litmus test for military leadership. If they're going to fire on the American public or not, that's important. That's important for us to understand. I talked yesterday about the mutually assured destruction principle. Y'all remember back when they had all them nukes in them silos out in the Midwest, was operating on a two-man key thing. When they found out after they put it in there, spent all those billions of dollars putting them nuclear missiles out there in them cornfields, they found out that the two-man key thing, the two key stations were so far apart that one man couldn't do it. It had to have two men to do it. It was like a safeguard. But what they found out was that they weren't going to execute. You couldn't get both of them men in that hole to agree to it. Man, we're going to destroy the world? I'm not doing this. Humans have conscience. They have ethics. They have issues of spiritual conflict with their behavior. This is where you get righteous people from and you get devils from and demons from. So these guys in the military are saying, hell no, I ain't firing on American citizens. What the hell's wrong with you? Oh, yeah, you're disqualified. So I got to check that article out. It's in the chat.
Hey, man, I had this guy, man. I know him from, I was locked up with him. He's a white guy, and he was a professional sniper in the military. And they always kept him drugged up. He was always heavily sedated.
No, he had issues, yep.
He had a lot of issues, and, but he would always talk to me, because when I was going with this, they kept me in solitary confinement also. They wouldn't let me talk to anybody. When you're real good at this information, if they get their hands on you, they're going to keep you isolated. And so he was in there with me, and we would talk. And he said, man, I've killed 37 people. And he said, I remember everybody's name.
Mm-hmm.
He said the United States is not. He said that's bullshit when they're talking about they're going out fighting for freedom and peace. That's not what it is about. He said I was a trained sniper and I was given assignments and I killed only specific people. He's killed people in front of their family and all types of things, and it was tearing him up.
Yep.
It was eating at his soul. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And then they take him and lock him up and sedate him.
Yep.
This is what these people will do. And he said, I remember everybody's face. And he'd be talking to me, man. He looked like he on drugs right there in my face, But he would be talking about it. And, he said, we're at war right now. Every country we're at war with are only the countries that are not a part of the United Nations. I don't know if people know that or not. You can see that they're trying to bring in a new world order.
And now it's the countries who aren't a part of IMF. Yep.
Elishua Yisrael just hit me on the message. He said during the case, the bank did not show up. I know they're not going to show up. Banks don't come in the courtrooms. That's another thing with the foreclosure people out there,
Well,
why?
You got another case against him?
Well, he's finna get paid, man. He got to get paid. He won that big case there in Georgia. I don't know if all y'all know. Elishua Yisrael, he got arrested 2 years ago. That was around the time they put me on the news for, they had that in Georgia. They talking about sovereign citizens stealing houses, right? So my man, back then when I saw that, I said, man, they ain't going to be able to convict my man because the bank can't prove that they own nothing, I already been dealing with the banks. The banks are thieves. That's it. They're straight up liars and thieves, banks and attorneys. You just got to call them what they are. They come in your face and act like, they upstanding citizens, but they ain't nothing but a piece of shit. And if they listen enough, you can call in and challenge me on that. Hell, I ain't scared. I'm going to tell you straight up what it is. Y'all know you a piece of shit. But they feel like they ain't wrong because we ignorant. It's like, well, it's not my fault you don't know the law or you don't know your rights. But anyway, they arrested this man talking about he's stealing houses and slandered him all on the news media and everything, sovereign citizens stealing houses. And this man went into the courtroom and used the Bible on him and won. Now, this made big news. Now, they scrambling. Now, I want y'all to pay attention to the fact that the attorney on that particular case, he left DeKalb County and had to go over to Cobb County, both the district, I think the district attorney also. That is because when an attorney files charges against you, they have to bond the case. They have to bond the case. Cases have to be bonded. When you study admiralty law, you're going to see that you can't bring a case in admiralty without a bond. That's why you got to put a bond in any court case that you're in. He said, tell him why you mad, Yusef. Yeah, it should be pissing me off because I know what's going on. So when that attorney loses the case, they lose their bond. They had to get reinsured. They got to get insured all over again. Y'all got to find out what's going on. There was some stuff I want to talk about. I was listening yesterday, but what I really want to talk about with this New World Order is that the fact that, number one, it is voluntary. Number two, it is involving this debt. You need to understand what a novation is. Novation is how they've made us responsible for the national debt. When you look at that debt clock, I'm gonna put it in the room again one time because I want people to look at that because they don't look at it. You need to look at it real closely. When you look at the debt clock, that is you not discharging debt. That is you not taking the time to arrange your commercial affairs with your U.S. Treasury Department. That is you not making claims on loans when you buy the cars, when you buy the houses. You're not filing a 1099 OID with an 8281. That is what all that is right there. That's you. That is you not making a claim on the ledger sheets. When you make a loan, what they do is they have what's called the matching principle. They follow GAAP accounting procedures. Every time you get a loan, that promissory note is ledgered as an asset and also as a liability. It's an asset on the receivable side, and it's a liability on the payable side. And it's a liability because they have to pay that back to you. But they don't do that. What they do is they do off-balance sheet accounting, meaning they move that liability off of that balance sheet onto another set of books. The document that tracks that process is called a FR 2046 balance sheet. Google that in your chat room. Just Google it and look at it. These are documents that you can subpoena in court. Also, you want to ask these prosecutors and these people in court for the 1040 if you're in a criminal case. FR 2046 balance sheet. I'm putting something in the chat room for you, a little article that y'all can pull up, you foreclosure people out there. Oops, hold on, that was wrong. You can pull it up and read about this FR 2046 balance sheet. Pull that up and read it. Good information on securitization. Talks about the FAS 125, FAS 140, and FAS 95. I told you about the Financial Accounting Standards Board, FASB. You need to know who they are. I got this thing I want to read to everybody. It's out of this book called Behold a Pale Horse with William Cooper. Real interesting. You know, when you go back and you read this book, what amazes me about the book is there's a lot of stuff in this book that William Cooper, these boys are researching over 25 years ago. Like when you get to Behold a Pale Horse, when you go to page 476, I know some of y'all know about it. It'll say this right here. It says, here is another thought that will be a shock to you, but do not misunderstand me or draw conclusions beyond what I am teaching. It is not a violation of American common law or any of the common laws of any state to possess marijuana or cocaine for your own personal use. Until there is a victim, there is no crime. Until you have deprived some other person of life, liberty, or property, no crime has been committed, all the statutes and regulations to the contrary notwithstanding. Most Americans these days, because of the Social Security contract and other contracts that confer upon them maritime jurisdiction, are legally wards of the state. If you are a ward of the state instead of a freeman at law, then the state has the jurisdiction to compel you to perform according to contract and take good care of yourself and not smoke pot. The state has the duty to take care of the property and chattel that it owns, including subjects and persons under contract for their care. Do you see that? Now, this is real interesting because this book right here, I had this book and read this in 1991. Some of us just finding this stuff out in 2013. They're talking about the same thing. They've been talking about trying to wake people up. And they killed this man.
Yes, they did.
They killed this man. Trying to alert you about the new. You should get Behold a Pale Horse. I feel like they changed. They took a couple of things out in it. You always got to be kind of leery of any book that's being published by the government, that the government gives permission to be published. Another document in the same book. It's called The Protocols of the Meeting of the Learned Elders of Zion. It's on page 268 of Behold a Pale Horse. And here's the thing that these people always like to do. They always like to do this, Paul. They got this word that everybody here is called conspiracy theory. Now, I've always been kind of a conspiracy theory buff myself until I got into this commercial redemption process and started dealing with these courts and found out that it wasn't a damn theory, it was a fact. But attorneys, they always try to tell you that's a good theory. Motherfucker, there's not no theory. They really look at people as slaves, as animals, as beasts. And that's why, Dr. Valentine, he was saying on his show, what I liked a lot, when he was talking about the character assessment that is required before you enter and go over into the private side. And I've said the same thing numerous times. Once you start elevating in this particular information, you will see that they are looking at our character. People are being viewed as heathens. They're looked at as godless people. And it goes a little deeper than religion. See, people have a tendency to put a religious connotation and associate that with everything. And it's not about religion. It is about whether or not you have any self-regulation. Because a man who can regulate himself does not need to be regulated by anyone else. But what are the guidelines that individuals use to regulate themselves? And those are the laws of nature. Because if you are following the laws of nature, then you do not have any need to be governed by the laws of men. As a matter of fact, when you come totally in harmony with the laws of nature, you become godlike and you elevate. So these individuals who are running the planet, they look at themselves as being godlike, as being in harmony with the laws of nature. Irrespective of how we feel about it. They have more knowledge than we do. Knowledge that came from us, read this to you, some of their insight. Let me tell you what they say. Let me show you these are what the elite think about you. And it can't be a conspiracy because it's so well written. You know, that's what I like about it. Just, you know, when you see things and they say, well, you know, this is some kind of, you know, some type of hoax or something. But let's look at this and let's see. Could this be a hoax? It says, putting aside fine phrases, we shall speak of the significance of each thought. By comparisons and deductions, we shall throw light around surrounding facts. What I'm about to set forth then is our system from the 2 points of view, that of ourselves and that of the Goyim, or non-Jews. It must be noted that men with bad instincts are more in number than the good, and therefore the best results in governing them are attained by violence and terrorization, and not by academic discussion. Every man aims at power. Everyone would like to become a dictator if only he could, and rare indeed are the men who would not be willing to sacrifice the welfare of all for the sake of securing their own welfare. What has restrained this beast, notice they call you a beast, of prey who are called men? What has served for their guidance hitherto? In other words, what laws do you follow? What is guiding you? What personal law do you have as a sovereign operating in your own capacity? In the beginnings of the structure of society, they were subjected to brutal and blind force, and afterwards to law, which is the same force only in disguise. Now, this is the thing I always bring up to sovereigns and nationalists and everything is that we don't have a military. I've read in law books where the Native Americans and people have brought this thing where we are the indigenous people of the land and we have sovereignty and all this, and they just straight up told them, y'all conquered people.
With a contract.
They don't need a contract. They need a gun. When it's all said and done, at the end of the day, if I can't get you with a contract, I'm going to pull a gun on you.
But if I got a contract, your gun is for me.
Yeah.
If you're reputable, I got a contract, your guns are mine. That's what the contract is. That's what it's for. To establish peace amongst nations, we have a contract. That's why Switzerland don't have no army. France don't have no army. Because they got a contract with the folks with the army.
I agree, but when you're living in a country like we're here in the United States, and that's more so what I was referencing, and we make these arguments, what these people are saying is, you know, we conquered this land. That's why we in control. And and y'all got to follow our rules. We don't have to follow your rules.
That's a misnomer. That's a fraudulent conveyance of reality.
I don't see why. Why would that be fraudulent?
I'm gonna tell you why. Why it's fraudulent? Because everything that was devised with and through the indigenous people. With and through the indigenous people. Finding peace with and through the indigenous people. They didn't come up with this. Listen, what they came up with is what we're fighting right now.
Okay, well, let me read this right here, what it says on page 268, what these people say. It says right here, the very next sentence says, I draw the conclusion that by the law of nature, right lies in force. In other words, when you look out in nature and you look at animals, and, you know, I've often thought of this. I look at the lions, how everywhere in nature it seems like the strong, takes over the weak. In the sea, you see it with the fish and sharks and lions and everybody. There seems to be some type of battle for survival where only the strong survive. Now, we could make the argument that in humanity, and I firmly stand on this, that we've moved past physical confrontation into a mental battlefield. I think that we only descend to physical force is for the brute. And that's what they said right here. It says, he said it very clearly. He says that therefore the best results in governing them are attained by violence and terrorization and not by academic discussion. He said because most men have bad instincts, and there are more men with bad instincts than men with good instincts. This is their view. It says, what has restrained the beast of prey we call men? Look at what they say. It says, political freedom is an idea but not a fact. This idea one must know how to apply whenever it appears necessary, with this bait of an idea to attract masses of people to one's party for the purpose of crushing another who is in authority. This task is rendered easier if the opponent has himself been infected with the idea of freedom, so-called liberalism, and, for the sake of an idea, is willing to yield some of his power. It is precisely here that the triumph of our theory appears. The slackened reins of government are immediately, by the law of life, caught up and gathered together by a new hand. In other words, they're saying by the laws of nature. It is nature that dictates this, that right lies in might.
Can I jump in?
Go ahead. I'm not saying I agree with this 100%, but I am saying that you need to start looking and seeing how your enemy thinks.
Okay, I totally agree, because that is how they think. And if you realize how they think, and you realize how their thinking is adversely affecting the whole planet, not just us, the whole planet, then you understand the fraudulency of their thinking. And they don't. Listen, we are dealing with a group of people who believe, just like you're reading, those are their thought processes. And they fail to grasp the importance of coexistence as opposed to dominance. Now, in nature, there is only instantaneous dominance for the purposes of survival. You only dominate to eat. Nature doesn't subjugate.
Well, it's for survival purposes, but okay. Well, let me read this one line, and I'm gonna expand on that. The next one is real interesting. It says, in our day, the power which has replaced that of the rulers who were liberal is the power of gold. Now, what's interesting about gold is that when you go back in history, it's always been about gold. And they tricked the black community through hip-hop and got everybody wearing platinum and silver. When since the inception, as far as I can remember in history, gold has been everything. I even talk to these people on the corners who have these little gold stands, you know, and say, we buy gold. And I go up to them and talk to them. I say, man, you know, you taking real money and giving people fake money, because, you know, people are giving their gold away for Federal Reserve notes. And they say, man, it's not my fault these people is ignorant. Hey, get away from my stand, you messing up my hustle. This is what they saying about y'all when you don't have them little we buy gold stands. So they got all the gold too. Paul Warburg, I don't know if any of y'all out there know who Paul Warburg is, but Paul Warburg comes from one of the most powerful families in the world. They are some of the families that have an interest in the International Monetary Fund. In the early 1900s, he made a statement that the gold was wasting away in the pockets of the private citizens. They just came and took the gold away from you. Public servants. And when you finish reading in here, in this Protocols of the Wise Men of Zion, it tells you that they didn't have to borrow money from us. They could have got the money from their own citizens, but they chose to come and borrow from us. And what are we still doing today? You see, they just do a stimulus package. You don't know what the hell that is. All you know is that Obama went and got $1.2 trillion. You don't know where the fuck he got it from, but he got it from some damn where. We owe some goddamn body. But all you know is I'm finna watch the game. That don't apply to me. I agree. I don't agree with what these people are thinking. They are destroying the planet. However, I do have to turn around and look in the mirror and look at myself and everybody and say, okay, what part am I playing in all of this? Because as I said, y'all, one thing I discovered about all this is it has to be 100% voluntary. The devil cannot make you do anything. He cannot on the last day when you're in heaven, you can't go and stand, you know, people, they think they're going to go to heaven and they're going to get judgment, they're going to be standing before God and he's going to ask them some questions. And some of y'all out there think y'all going to get to use the excuse, well, the devil made me do it. That shit is not going to fly because you have free will. That is the number one rule in the universe. No entity in the universe is going to infringe on your free will. You have utilization of free will is a skill that you have to learn how to do. If you want to see how strong your willpower is, try fasting for 21 days on strictly water. Phil Valentine, he said some real interesting things. He had fasted for over 40 days. And when you study a lot of esoteric information, you're going to see that this 40-day fast will bring a messenger to you. Even in the Bible, it says Jesus fasted for 40 days, and then the angels came and talked to him. Angel means messenger, by the way, y'all. He received messages. I began to think that before you go over into the Depository Trust Clearing Corporation, before we go completely over into the private side, before you become a god, before you get to join the party, before you become a participant over there on the other side in the private, when you come out of the matrix, where you no longer have to pay utility bills, where you no longer have to go to work, where you get to sit on a yacht all day, sip Mai Tais, and watch the sunset on a beach, there's going to be a character assessment. And I think that character assessment begins and ends also, begins with how you take care of your own temple. I think the human body is definitely a reflection of your thought processes that are going on in your mind. I think that they're putting in the food spells and chemicals that are in some type of way shaping your thought, or you're being refrained from experiencing certain type of thoughts, from receiving certain type of mental impressions. That to demonstrate that you will be a good custodian of your treasury account because you have been given a blessing. But you have to be found worthy of it. Are you the type of person that's concerned with your brother? For instance, give you an example. One thing that Phil Valentine talked about on that show, which I've talked about in that show, he talked about a susu. Now, in 1995, around that time, I was in Atlanta, and I had the pleasure of being a part of, I guess what some people would call out there a pyramid scheme. Well, that's what the powers that be call it, because they don't like anything where people are going to become wealthy and don't have to do anything for them. But anyway, it was this thing called Friends Helping Friends, and I was one of the people that was at the beginning of that and actually watched it grow, and it grew and took over the entire city. And one thing that always struck me, would always tell people is that they made a mention on the news that lottery ticket sales had dropped 50%. I mean, that was incredible. So they of course, they got some sellouts to come on the news and say, oh, this is a pyramid scheme. Some of y'all preachers out there start telling y'all if you this is some type of gambling, and if you are a part of this, we are going to kick you out of the church. So they let y'all church talk y'all out of it. And not knowing that the church is with the state, because these churches have licenses. They work for the state, not you. They 501(c)(3)s, corporations. And anyway, what you have to develop is some type of electrical currency. Another thing is that when you read in this Behold a Pale Horse, this Behold a Pale Horse is a very good book. I have a chapter in there, Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. And in here, it tells you how money follows the same principle as electricity. That's why they call it currency. That's why they call circuit courts. They're trying to control the flow of electricity, the flow of currency. Now, you need to create an electrical current that is flowing your way. But to do that, you got to trust each other. That's why it says right there on the money, in God we trust. Right there in Psalms 82:6, it calls you a God. Right there in John 10:34, you're called a God. Right there in Genesis 3:22, it says, look, the man has become as one of us. But y'all don't know what it means to be a God, because when you hear that word, you're thinking of somebody telling you that you're the God of all creation. That's not what that's saying. What that is saying is you have within you, because of your free will, the innate ability to control yourself, to discipline yourself. Love each other. The sign of my people is they will have love between each other. So I went out and looked, and I found another example of this particular thing that they were doing in Atlanta, and it was called 2010 Blessings. Now, I'm not here really to promote 2010 Blessings, but I got to do something, because so many people out there are suffering because they don't have money to pay your bills. You're out there, you're trying to figure out how to, do this process, do the UCC1, discharge your debt. You're trying to discharge the debt. The people ain't listening to you. They trying to steal your car, trying to steal your home. You're going in the courtroom, the judge act like he don't know what you're talking about, treating you like a straight-up slave. You're having to go through all these processes to try to get remedy, going to get the judge's oath of office, writing 1,000 letters to him. All this stuff. I know what y'all going through out there. I know what you're going through. But what I was trying to say, and what we should be doing, is that perhaps we should be, first of all, devise some type of plan where we can, make some money and help ourselves while we are participating or while we are seeking these remedies. Because let me tell you something, y'all. 85% of the money that is in circulation that exists is controlled by about 5% of the people. About 15%. So you got 300 million of people. The rest of us out here, we all fighting, going to work, struggling over 15% of the money. Now, that 15% is a big sum, because some of y'all out there making $100,000 a year or something like that, and you think you balling or something like that. And they happy about that because they want to keep your mind locked in and thinking about, that that's a lot of money. I remember when I was young, I used to have a marketing job where we had to market to people who only made over $100,000 a year, and I was amazed at the number of people out there who make $500,000 a year. What are they doing? What are they doing to make $500,000 a year? And how can we do it? So,
I don't think they punching no clock.
It's impossible. No one, let me tell y'all something out there, no one has ever gotten wealthy by punching a clock. And let me tell you something else. You make money, you make exactly how much money according to the 5 people you hang around the most. If you take the 5 people you hang out with the most and average it out, that's how much money you make. Even tell you that in the Bible. Bad association spoils useful habits. It's just like, it's all vibratory. It's the principle of vibration. It's just like if you take women. If you take women and put them together and let them live together, they'll all start having a period at the same time. Well, it's the same thing with money. If you start hanging around people who make money, then you will make money. You got to hang around people, associate with like-minded people. You got to find the people that want to be like you want to be. If you got some type of image in your mind of something that you want to be, then those are the people you need to seek out.